the time for both. When you're doing business, give it everything you've got, 100% effort. But when it's time for rest, give doing nothing 100%. Now is not the time for doing business. I did not bring my monastery to Malaysia with me. In fact, I haven't got a clue what all those monks are doing. They may be having a big party right now, as far as I know. But I don't worry about it. I've let it go. When I come here, I'm just a teacher. I'm not an abbot. I'm a part-time abbot. When I'm in my monastery, then I'm abbot. When I leave, I'm not abbot anymore. Now do you understand how to let go? When you're right there, you give it everything you've got. When you're at your business, at your desk, full effort, and try to improve the products. It's not just for you, it's for all the people who work for you, whose families, their livelihood depends upon your business. So be innovative, put forth effort, do things, and make sure you get the sales. But if you get stressed out, sit down and give yourself a few moments of peace. Rest. Be content. It's like going on a journey. Every now and again, if you're walking on a journey, you have to sit down and rest. To be content with how far you've come, so that you can rest. When you've rested in contentment, you've recharged your batteries, then you go walking again. Even your car has to stop from time to time at the gas stations to fill up with petrol. So do you. And this, my friends, is the gas station of life, meditation. Where you can fill up your energies of the mind. Okay, so there's no conflict at all. Sometimes people hear a conflict because when I'm teaching a meditation retreat, I teach meditation, contentment. But when you're giving a motivational course to someone, you say, go out there, full effort, 100%, in the moment, give it everything you've got. Otherwise, I'd be a hypocrite. I'm building this retreat center. So how discontent can you be? We've got a monastery for the monks, we've got a monastery for the nuns, we've got a city center in Perth. Now Ajahn Brahm wants a retreat center as well. Oh, that's really being discontent. But no, when it's time to do something, you give it everything you've got. When it's time to relax, you give letting go everything you've got. Then you're a very effective person. Okay, next question. Ajahn Brahm, in one sitting lasting more than an hour, I can see two methods, metta and vipassana meditation. If so, which should I start the sitting with first, and which should I end with? It doesn't matter at all. If you started with metta, you're doing vipassana, it's just running behind. If you're doing vipassana, you're doing metta as well. Whatever one you're starting with or finishing with, both begin, both end together. In a while, actually you'll see that. If you're doing loving kindness meditation, number one, you're learning what loving kindness is. You're getting insight into the meaning of metta. As the metta develops, you get more insight. The mind becomes brighter, it sees more. This is another simile I've been giving, which actually shows how calm and insight work together. It's a simile from life. It's one of my favorite ones. The simile of my monastery in Serpentine being 2 kilometers on top of a hill. I've been in that monastery now over 21 years. For about the first 10 years, I'd always go up that hill to the monastery, down that hill, going to some appointment in a vehicle. For over 10 years, I've looked through the window of that road and thought I knew that hillside, because I saw it every day almost. But after 10 years, I decided to walk up that hillside. It was a lovely day. I needed the exercise, so I decided to walk up. When I started walking, I got a very strange experience. When I looked at the hillside, I could not recognize it. It looked very different to anything I'd ever seen before. And I thought, what's going on? I've been looking at that hillside for over 10 years. What do you mean I'm seeing it as if it's new? So I stopped And when I stopped, the hillside changed again. When I stopped, I saw more things in that hillside, and it looked more beautiful. And those experiences, when you have an experience, you use insight to try and find out what's going on. And I soon figured out that this is just the nature of your senses. If you're looking through the window of a fast car, your eyes don't have time to register the light on the back of your retina before you have to go on to a new image. Because of that, the colors aren't fully formed. Everything is like washed out. The colors aren't rich. You haven't got time to understand all the details in the hillside before you have to move on. Even the sounds, the taste, or not the taste, the smells, the feeling of that hillside, you can't really appreciate it because your senses don't have time to fully form an image. Even knowing what's going on there, the mind, the brain has to go on to something else pretty quickly because the images flashing past through the window of a car come too fast. When you slow down, walking, the eyes have more time. Even physiologically, the light forms the chemical reactions, whatever it is in the back of the retina. The light which is formed there stays. The mind has more time to understand the imagery. You can see more details. You see much more, and what you see is richer. And when you stop and just stand still and look, you can see everything which is going on in that hillside. You've got all the time in the world to fully form the correct picture. And that's why when I stood still, that hillside was just so beautiful. I saw rocks, little mounds of earth, little bushes and saplings, which you can never see when you're going in a fast car looking through the window. You can understand scientifically what I'm talking about, but that's exactly the same way the mind works. Sometimes our life is like being in a fast car looking out the window. We've got so many things to do. We move our minds so quickly that all we know of life is just fleeting images. Even the colors, the texture of life is washed out. Nothing is very beautiful or inspiring because we're going too fast. When we slow down, and this is what you're doing in a meditation retreat, when you slow down, the senses have more time. You feel more. You see more. Even, and this is one of the experiences I noticed in my first meditation retreat when I was still a student at Cambridge. It was in a boarding house. This was in the 1970 or 71, I forget which. Cambridge boarding houses were renowned for how awful their food was. You used to have 3-course meals, stodge, stodge and stodge, which all tasted the same. It's disgusting food because the people there were giving cheap accommodation to students and they couldn't afford to spend much money on food. So it was pretty coarse food you had to eat. But I thought we must have struck gold. We must have been so lucky because at this retreat, the food which the landlady gave us every day during this retreat was actually delicious. And I couldn't understand why. And only afterwards I realized it wasn't the food which was delicious. It was my senses had woken up because they were going slowly. That even in ordinary food you could appreciate the taste much more. You will notice that in any retreat you go on, the food is exceptionally delicious. It's ordinary food, but because you're going more slowly, you can see more in it. You can taste it more deeply. And the flavors register on your senses with greater intensity. Basically, on a retreat, you add an extra 2 stars onto the restaurant. This is what we mean by calm and insight. The slower you go, the deeper you see. which is why when you're going fast, you think you're seeing life. You don't know life at all. Life becomes dull and grey the faster you go. Slow you go, the colours become richer, more contrast, more pronounced, and the whole of life becomes far more beautiful. Even those of you who are married in relationships, if you can't spend time with your partner, your relationship gets dull and grey. If you slow down and spend time, actually you start to appreciate more of the beauty in the person you're living with. Just as I could appreciate more beauty in a hillside when I stopped to look. Otherwise, it's all grey. The senses haven't got time to appreciate things. And you think mistakenly that's all that's there. Go slow and you'll see much more. That's why samatha and vipassana are a pair. Any questions on that? Okay. I'm not going to get through all these questions, so there's another time for tomorrow. Ajahn, when you mentioned if we encounter pain in our body during meditation process, we should go to the center of the pain and the pain will disappear. Can you further elaborate how to get into the center of the pain? A lot of times when pain comes along, we try and get away from it. We run away from pain out of fear. So sometimes we go in the opposite direction, say, pain, come in. And I'm going to come in with you. Instead of running away, trying to find an aspirin or find some sort of balm on your legs or something else, just stay with it and go right into it. Stop running away. And let it be. Become one with your pain. And then you'll find you go into it by stopping running away. And then strange thing happens when you go into the center of the pain. Then there's no pain at all. It's just feeling, that's all. I'll say some more about that later on in mindfulness. Ajahn, has anyone injured themselves due to the long duration of sitting? Blood circulation does not flow so smooth. Thank you. I had that worry when I was a young monk. I'd be sitting down, maybe 30 minutes I was okay. 35 minutes my legs would start to go numb. Because the blood wouldn't be flowing. And I didn't know much about anatomy or physiology. I thought, oh my goodness. If the blood isn't flowing, then it's only a matter of minutes before gangrene sets in. If I don't move quickly, they'll have to cut my legs off. And I started getting all this fear. So every time when my legs started to go numb, I would change my posture so I'd never get into deep meditation. And one day I remember saying, I don't care, you can cut my legs off if you like, I'm not going to move. And I didn't move. And what happened? The legs were so numb. And then the blood started coming back again. All by itself, I never moved. I called the bluff of my body. If the body wants to pump the blood, it will pump the blood. It's just like, a kid saying, well, this is actually a very good simile about letting go. There was a Singaporean girl staying in my monastery. And she was saying that she was meditating, her mind was going all over the place. It was going here and going there. And she said, what should I do? I said, let it go. And I gave her this simile. I said, there was a disciple of mine in Perth. She had a 5-year-old or 6-year-old girl. And the 6-year-old girl would not do the small chores she had. And so the child got so upset with mother saying, I want to leave home. Only 6 years of age. So the mother said, okay, let's go up, we'll pack some bags. So the mother went to her room, packed a bag, and put a little doll in there, went to the kitchen, made her some sandwiches, gave her the sandwich, and the girl with a little suitcase and her sandwiches, the mother sort of waved her off at the gate. Have a nice life, thank you very much, been very lovely knowing you. And the child left home. He got about 50 meters down the road before the child turned around and came back again. Of course, a 5 or 6-year-old, where all a 5 or 6-year-old go? She just playing games. But the mother was very smart. Psychologically, she was 100% correct. Let the child go and it'll come back all by itself. And I said, that's what you should do with the mind. If the mind wants to be restless, pack its bag, give it some sandwiches. You want to go restless? Okay, off you go. Bye-bye. And then the mind comes back again. That's a great way of dealing with a restless mind. And this Singapore girl, she cracked up laughing. She was almost falling over because she did that when she was 7. in her apartment in Singapore. She got fed up with her mother for, don't know what, sort of disciplining her or something. Said, I can't stay in this house any longer, I'm leaving. And the mother did the same. Told her to go and pack her bags. She didn't give her sandwiches, she gave her $20 Singaporean for her life. Goodbye. And of course, she just got to the end of the street and came back again. It works. So, controlling the mind, that's actually what you do. Let it go. Now, same with like pins and needles. Leave it alone. The blood will come back by itself. Give it $20, say goodbye blood. It all comes back. Because the body will always balance itself. A strange thing though happens. I don't know how long you can sit meditation for before you start getting sore and painful. Say it's like an hour, and after an hour you're pretty stiff. If you get into deep meditation, the first time you get into deep meditation, you may be able to meditate for 2 hours or 3 hours. And you can't feel the body at all. And you think, my goodness, I might not be able to feel the body, but when I come out it's going to be really sore. You find when you come out of meditation, after a deep meditation, a long meditation, your body has got no aches or soreness at all. I don't know how this happens, because it should be aching. You sit absolutely still for such a long time, but you're no pain at all. It doesn't depend how long you sit. It depends on how you sit, whether you get pain or aches or whatever. So the long duration of the sitting, if you're forcing the long duration, controlling, yes, then it will hurt. Okay. But if you don't control it, you let it go and it becomes natural, it won't hurt at all. And after 3 hours or 4 hours of meditation, you won't have an ache or a pain in the body. Strange, but true. Next question. Ajahn, what is chittanupassana? How do we practice it? How you practice, you've got a chittanupassana is reflecting on the mind. Contemplating the mind. To be able to contemplate the mind, you've got to see the mind first of all. And very few meditators know what the mind is. This is where I stand out. I argue with many other monks on this point, but I say the only time you can do chittanupassana is when you've got nimittas. When you can actually have a reflection on your mind. When you can actually know what this word chitta really means. You know that phrase, the prabhasarang etang chittang, the radiant mind, the prabhasara chitta? You may have heard that because that's a common term which some of the meditators use, the radiant mind. You know what that is? That's what you see when you get in this beautiful radiant light. What the mind is. When the Buddha talked about that, deep meditation, you're actually in a purification. For us, it was my sixth sense. Not anything the mind, but it for other senses. So to apply it now. The same, if you are going to put element, you've got to get your sample element first of all. If you've got, say, gold and there's traces of tin or iron in it, and you do your experiments, you won't get good results. You've got to get pretty pure sample of gold before you can test it and find out what it is. In exactly the same way, you've got to get a pretty pure sample of the mind, not tainted by any of the other five senses. Otherwise, you're not really investigating the mind. You're investigating an alloy of the mind. A mind mixed with one of the other senses. That's not real mind. And that means you don't get the full picture. When you get close to the real mind, just pure mind, you will find some amazing things. When you get to the nimitta stage, you reflect upon that, usually after the meditation. There's certain things you will clearly see. One of the things you will clearly see is this mind, because it's apart from the senses, the body has disappeared. You know that when you die, the body dies, the five senses disappear, but this which is apart from the body, this mind which you're experiencing now, you realize that that will continue on. There's no doubt at all afterwards about rebirth. You understand what happens when you're reborn. Now that's a great insight. That much is not just belief. You understand what happens when you die. You understand why you get reborn. Because that mind is not affected by death. You also understand just the difference between men, women, races, animals, ghosts or whatever. Because that mind, that prabhasara citta which you see in your deep meditation is exactly the same which ladies, men, English, Australian, Malaysian, Singaporeans, The body is what separates us into gender, male, female, old, young, Singaporeans, Asians, Americans, or whatever. When we get to the citta, that's what we all have in common. What we have in common with animals, with devas, with ghosts. Citta. Now you understand why we can get reborn from one plane to the next, because the basic citta is the same. You understand when the Buddha taught why his teachings related to men, women of all races, of all classes, why they're also related to ghosts and to heavenly beings, because he was talking about the citta, what we all have in common. This is where you really get into insight in the nature of these things. I say that there's three main insights, three main ajahs. This is the earliest phase of Buddhism. The insight into rebirth, the insight into karma, and the insight into Four Noble Truths. What's called Tevijja, the three knowledges. Now this is what I hope you're going to get. Get that mind first of all, and the whole of the Dhamma will start to open out to you. Chittanupassi is the hardest of all the four satipatthanas. You need to get deep meditation to be able to do that. Dear wise Ajahn Brahm, what are some purification meditations? Having a shower? To cleanse the imprint of negative actions and to stop the nagging guilty feeling. Are there specific meditations to help us control anger, attachments and jealousy? With thanks. The purification meditations, you're doing them now. Letting go is the best purification meditation. You don't have to carry around the past. Now, this is actually a profound teaching. I've been giving this recently. I told it in Singapore recently. You know the stream winner? The stream winner is no longer liable to fall into the hell realms, the ghost realms, or the animal realms. Why? Why does it say the stream winner cannot get reborn into those realms? And why do people get reborn into those realms anyway? Did the Buddha construct the hell realms? Was he a sadist? This is one of the great arguments against the God. If God was the creator, who could create hell? That's the most uncompassionate, unkind, cruel thing to do. Why is there a hell? There are hell realms. You know why there's a hell? Because you make that hell. And the Buddha doesn't send you to hell. You send yourself to hell. This is a powerful insight I had a few years ago. Why do people go into hell realms? Because you think you deserve it. Some of those insights happened to me because I spent a long time with prisoners, talking to them, teaching them, and getting to know them. Every prisoner I met, they all felt guilty, really guilty. They would not show that usually to other prisoners and to other people. They put on a face, the defiant, tough prisoner. But, when you got close to them and they opened out like they do sometimes to a monk, you could feel their pain. Every day they felt the pain of what they'd done. This is called the conscience, the guilt. You have that. Everyone has that. As long as you have that, you're liable to go to hell. If you've done something wrong, you feel you need to be punished. You send yourself to hell. How can you get out of hell? Forgive yourself. Let go. I've been teaching that for such a long time. Why can't people forgive themselves? Angulimala could forgive himself, and he killed 999 people, and let go and become an arahat, and not have to go to those hell realms anymore. To be able to forgive yourself, you have to have a profound full knowledge of anatta, non-self. As long as there's an idea of a self and a me, there will be guilt. It goes together. It's called attachment. Your acts and a self connect together. It was me who did those acts. It's me who need to be punished. And there's no self, just cause and effect. Then you can actually let go. You can cut that link. When you cut that link, you don't need to go to hell anymore. part of the stream winners. The major insight of a stream winner is non-self. To see what this whole process is. This thing which you take to be a body and a mind, which you take to be me, what actually is it? And you see what it is. You also see why many people take this to be a self. You can see the mistake very clearly. When you see that mistake, never again will you think there's a self in here. It's a me or mine. It's just a process. It's not Ajahn Brahm. It's not Mangala. It's nobody. It's just a process. To see that fully, absolutely, 100% to its depth, you're a stream winner. When you see that, there's no one in here. There's no one needs to be punished. You can forgive to the point that never will you need to go to hell or to the lower realms ever again. It's part of the result of insight into no self, attain a stream winner. You've let go of guilt. So you don't need to be punished. Make a mistake, you learn, move on. The more that you can forgive yourself and others, the closer you're moving to anatta. You're closer moving to stream winning. That's a profound teaching. Hope you understand it. That's the best of the purifications. The wisdom into non-self. Then the whole thing gets cleaned. To stop that nagging, guilty feeling. If you can't do that, at least you can see just what a stupid thing it is to feel guilty. In my monastery, sometimes monks, Anagarikas, new people first of all, people joining the monastery, sometimes they make mistakes. And they feel so guilty because they come up with the conditioning of their lay life. They made a mistake, they want to be punished. And I say, oh, leave it alone, forget it. You're human, you make mistakes, learn from it, leave it alone. But sometimes it doesn't work. They want a punishment. So I'm an abbot, so I have to administer the punishment. So, to keep the Australian tradition, because Australia was a convict colony years ago, and when any of the convicts made a mistake, they would get whipped. Really cruelly, they used to use this cat of nine tails. So I thought, okay, let's follow the Australian tradition. If anybody wants to be punished, I'll give them 50 strokes of the cat. So that's my standard punishment now for any anagarika. This is not this is my standard punishment for any person in the monastery who makes some mistakes and wants to be punished. I give them 50 strokes of the cat. Do you think that's cruel? I'd never hit anybody. 50 strokes of the cat in my monastery means this. In my monastery we've got a little cat called Kit Kat. And I tell them, find that cat and stroke it 50 times. Oh, you poor cat. Because I say, you need to learn compassion. You don't need to be punished. You need to learn some more compassion by stroking a cat. It's a great way to learn compassion. And then maybe you can forgive yourself. So I never hit anybody. But I say that because sometimes when I first said that in Perth, people said, what? Ajahn Brahm whips people? And I could never do that. So no, I give 50 strokes to the cat in Buddhism. Find a cat and stroke it 50 times. Oh, nice cat. Learn some compassion so that you can forgive yourself. So anyone who's feeling guilty here, do something kind and compassionate for others. 50 times. And when you've learned compassion for others, then maybe you can learn compassion for yourself and let go of guilt. Forgive. And are there specific meditations to help us control anger, attachment and jealousy? Yeah? Interview, yeah. Anger, jealousy and stuff like that. Oh, it's a big thing. With anger, actually it's too much actually for today. Maybe later on we'll talk about anger. Otherwise, that someone get angry with me because it's interview time 5 minutes ago, but who cares? So, those of you who are having interviews, you can please come up soon. Please try and keep it to 5 minutes, no longer. So get your questions pretty much closely in your mind, so you know exactly what you're saying. Ask the questions, boom, boom, boom. This is, you've got like in the West, you've got fast food, drive-through service. This is fast food, drive-through interviews at the top. And lunch is 11:30, so hope you enjoyed those questions. The questions which I haven't answered, I put back in the box to be answered tomorrow. Hope you enjoyed it. Happy meditating. See what happens next. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.